The Wolverines lose 3 NFL players off of their defensive line. Josaiah Stewart, edge, one of the highest graded edges last year per Pro Football Focus, and 2 first-round defensive tackles. You might be thinking to yourself that this unit is basically destined to regress, and there is truth to that. I think it is destined to regress. But you may not realize that this unit is also destined to remain one of the better units in college football. Why is that? Because Michigan has developed well there. They've recruited well there, because I think Wink Martindale figured a little bit of the college game out last year. Esposito was a great developer, and Michigan rotated a lot last year. Michigan returns multiple players, including transfers, that had around 300 snaps last year. Let me name them off to you. Rayshaun Benny, Damon Payne, Tre Williams, Derrick Moore, TJ Guy, Cameron Brandt. 6 offensive linemen with around 300 snaps, give or take maybe an error, like standard error of 25 each way, minus 25 plus 25. And Benny had a grade above an 80 per Pro Football Focus. He actually graded about the same as Kenneth Grant. And then Ike Iwunnah, TJ Guy, and Derrick Moore. Actually not Ike Iwunnah, just Derrick Moore and TJ Guy, and also Cameron Brandt, had grades overall of 70 or better on PFF's defensive grading scale. This is actually still a veteran unit. There's a lot of seniors in here and a lot of juniors who only have 2 years of eligibility. The room is decently recruited. I'd say it's, all right in terms of recruiting by Michigan standards. It's been well developed. All of them except for Rayshaun Benny at defensive tackle weighed over 300 pounds last year, and I bet you Benny will weigh over 300 this year. And the defensive ends are 6'3", 6'4", 6'4", and weigh 250 pounds or more. And all the DNs returning have 70 or better defensive grades. I mean, this is just... I know that 16 sacks and 26 TFLs isn't eye-popping stats for a returning defensive line, but it's not bad. I'd say it's good, and given Michigan's history there and returning, snap count and the fact that they rotated last year, there's a lot of reasons for optimism. I mean, Michigan, I think, has earned benefit of the doubt on the D-line in a way that no other team in the Big Ten has, at least yet. I think that Penn State can get there. I think that Oregon can get there. I think that, honestly, with Indiana's coaching, if they recruit better and do as well in the portal as they did last year, they can get there. As for Ohio State, I think they have been there for a while, but I think that with what Ohio State fans and myself, and not just any Ohio State fans, but the knowledgeable ones, which encompass a good portion of their fan base, have noticed that Larry Johnson, is getting older, recruiting's falling off, development's falling off there. I think that before they re-earn that benefit of the doubt, they're either going to have an amazing year this season, or there's going to have to be a replacement for Larry Johnson. And whoever replaces him, topic for a different day, will be great, because I have confidence in Day's hirings. But we're talking about Michigan here. A team was beating Ohio State for 4 years in a row, because in large part of their defensive line play, whether at D-end in 2021 or overall in 2022, 2023, and especially D-tackle in 2024. Michigan's going to be great there again. They're going to once again have a top 5 D-line in terms of depth and maybe top 5 in terms of starting talent as well. If you want to argue with me, well, tell me who is definitively better. Maybe Clemson, if they can get coaching right. They're more talented, but did you watch Clemson's D-line last year? They couldn't crush a grape in a food fight in run blocking. What about, or in run defense, rather. Run blocking is technically the term for the O-line, but still, I think you get the point. What about Georgia's last year? They lost just as much talent as Michigan did, and Georgia has not had the same play on the D-line. More talented, yes, but recruiting rankings aren't everything. I think that players like Chris Olave or Kenneth Grant, or let me just pull one weird one out of the back of my mind, Dylan Gabriel, for example. I think players like that show that recruiting rankings, there is causation between recruiting rankings and having success. There's nothing bad about recruiting better unless you're doing it only because you have money and you're getting really risky with your recruiting and going all in on some higher level guys and ignoring stuff like culture. but that's rare. Typically, teams that recruit at a high level check for that stuff as well. There's not really a downside to recruiting better, but it's not the end-all, be-all. If you want to tell me that Michigan isn't going to have an elite D-line because, well, they're losing, they don't have a 5-star there, or they're losing first-rounders, well, tell me why they won't just do what they've done in the past and get better there. You're taking the pessimistic side of the argument, and that's one that's valid, but the optimistic side is also valid, and I think there are more reasons to support the optimistic side with how many seniors are coming back, with the fact that Esposito is probably the most proven coach on the defensive side of the ball, minus Wink Martindale, and has the best track record of development for sure. And these guys are big. I mean, I'm not even counting Eno Etta, or maybe Nathaniel Marshall comes in and is an immediate freak. Don't think that happens, especially since he's not a winner enrollee, but you never know. It's things like that that make a great D-line, an elite D-line. You got to have the depth. You got to have the talent. You have to have seasoned veterans. You have to have experience. You have to have coaching, like all the things I've mentioned before. Coaching, veterancy, character, intelligence. You got to have the scheme, the athleticism, the depth, talent. I could go on and on and on using different synonyms for basically the same thing. This unit is great. It's one of the better units at its position. It can contend for being the best in America. Maybe it will have a very severe drop-off and at the worst just be good. Still, it's impressive to see the depth of this unit. I think it will be weaker for sure in pass rush. I think in run blocking it'll be pretty similar. Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant are unreal, so there will be regression at D-tackle in terms of run blocking. But you look at Michigan's strength last year and their weaknesses in the D-line, much better run blocking D-line than they were pass rush, in my mind at least. And then you had, I would say that you also had the fact that Michigan typically isn't very blitz heavy, and when they were, it just didn't work out for them because their secondary was off. And then you look at what they got in the portal. They brought in 2 defensive tackles. They didn't bring in any defensive ends in the portal. Makes sense because they lost more at D-tackle, but regardless, this D-tackle room I think is going to be deeper than last year's. The quality will be worse, much worse. So overall, the D-tackle room will be worse, but Williams, Iwunnah, Payne, Pierce, and Benny, you have a 5-man rotation. You can probably plug in 1 or 2 other guys that I don't have on my list of returning talent. You have a probably 6-7-man rotation there. I liken it to Texas's 2023 defensive line versus their D-line in 2024, minus the fact that I don't think Michigan has a Colin Simmons. They don't. 90% sure of that. Where you lose T'Vondre Sweat, you lose Byron Murphy, but because of all the transfers you bring in and the fact that you return Alfred Collins, you can rotate more guys. You're not deeper in your 2 deep, but in your 3 deep or 4 deep, you are. And consequently, you are going to be fresher, and you can constantly substitute in and substitute out bodies. It's going to be hard to run on this team. Michigan's identity on defense, really ever since Jesse Minter got there, has been, you're not going to run on us. If you're going to beat us, you're going to have to do it through the air. And that was also, to a certain degree, what Michigan had in 2021, just with not the same amount of success for a variety of reasons that you can probably imagine. The weakness of this unit, I think, is going to be getting to the quarterback. They're going to have to adjust to not having the same dominant forces of Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham in the interior, getting interior pass rush, dominating centers and guards. They're also going to have to get used to not having Josaiah Stewart, who was playing like an alien last year at times off the edge. You're probably going to have something similar to Derrick Moore, who I think will be an All-American this year, and TJ Guy and Cameron Brandt can probably substitute for what Derrick Moore was last year. But at D-tackle, you're not going to have that same interior rush. I think the run defense will be of pretty similar quality. We'll probably get better on the outside, honestly, because Moore, Guy, and Brandt are more naturally talented and a little bit taller than Josaiah Stewart, so they have more room to get beefier and bigger. It's also the second year of many of these guys in the Wink Martindale system, which is similar to the Ravens one, but you're adjusting to a new D-line coach, not Mike Elston, and a new DC not named Jesse Minter, instead Wink Martindale. So there's going to be room for growth, for sure. I don't think this unit is going to be generational. I think that, again, step back and pass rush. I think run defense will honestly be the same, maybe a little bit better. You won't have the same ceiling for sure there, but I think the floor will be higher because there will be more bodies to bring in and out, and you're returning more than you aren't at D end as well, and you're going to have more talented and bigger DNs starting compared to last season. So I like this Michigan defense overall. Once again, I think that the bell cow of this unit, the leader, the center of this unit is going to be the D-line, and then linebacker and secondary, much like last season, is where the questions are going to be. Thank you for watching this roster breakdown of Michigan. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. And also, subscribe to the channel. And thank you very much for watching. Go Blue, and I will see you all very soon in the next one.